Thank you for tuning into my webinar today called Secret Sauce, Becoming an In-Demand Speaker in the Events Industry. If you have a link to this particular webinar, it means that I'm asking you for some feedback. So just note that the presentation you're about to hear is given in the style of how I will be presenting in front of an audience as opposed to online. So some of the tone and verbiage you're going to hear is going to be presented from that perspective. So without further delay, let's go ahead and begin. Thank you all for coming down today to hear about the secret sauce, becoming an in-demand speaker in the events industry. My name is Trish Simitakos. I am the owner of Trish Star Events, which is a boutique planning agency based here in Washington, D.C. Now, I did want to tell you a little bit about this, what to expect today from this seminar. So the first thing that you should all expect is that I love puns. I also love pop culture references. So if I can make that happen in one particular image, well, that's exactly what's going to happen today. So just give you a little bit of heads up, a little warning about that. And in terms of the format, I'm going to cover this presentation in 3 sections, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. Now, after each section, I am allowing for a few minutes of a Q&A session. We'll kind of see where the time leads us, and that will kind of dictate how many questions I'll be able to take. And I will allow for additional questions at the end of the presentation. But just know that you don't have to necessarily memorize all your questions for the end, that after each section, I will be able to take at least a couple of questions. And for anyone that's looking to take notes, don't worry, you're going to get a link to a webinar. So it's going to be the short version of what's happening today. It's going to be my slides and just me verbally running through the slide presentation. So it's not going to be the in-depth level of conversation that we're about to have today, but it is going to include all of the information that I'm about to cover. Now, what we will be covering today in those 3 sections, as I mentioned, first we're going to cover the prep work, the things that you need to do to even prepare yourself for becoming a speaker. How do we do some basic housekeeping around what we're trying to accomplish? Second, we're going to cover skills development, and that is really the section that a lot of people get tripped up with, and they don't have to, because, and as you'll see by the end of that section, it sounds very daunting, but it really doesn't have to be. And 3, we're going to kind of cover how to cultivate to generate. And what I mean by that is, once you've done the prep work and you've done the skills development, there's going to be a period of time where you're going to need to cultivate those relationships, cultivate those skills, cultivate that experience. So that is, those things is what's going to make you more appealing as a speaker, is what's going to make you bookable as a speaker. Now, a little bit about who I am and how I got to stand in front of you today with this particular topic. As I've mentioned, I am an event planner. I do own a boutique agency. I do serve as a VP on the local DC NACE chapter board, but I also serve nationally on the education committee. And what I do there basically is I'm a gatekeeper, right? Once we put out a call to speakers for our experience conference, which some of you might be aware of, that happens every year in July, excuse me, those presentations, those proposals come into an email box, we filter through them, and that goes to a team. And the team scores those presentations, and based on those scores, that's how we determine who's going to move forward to that next round of selection. So that's where I am, and that's how I got to even be aware that this particular subject, it was something that hasn't been covered in the events industry. Because really, my experience up until serving on the national committee, was a focused corporate experience, right? Like I would book speakers, but it would be for a local corporate conference or a sales conference. And I never really had the opportunity to look at any more than maybe 5 or 10 presentations to select from at any particular time. But with this particular experience, I'm looking at 40, 50, 60 at a time. And I'm starting to notice patterns, right? I'm noticing that proposals that I'm receiving just don't represent the level of talent and capability that we have, even within the local marketplace. I'm not even talking about nationally. I'm just talking about locally. I'm getting these proposals, these speaker proposals, and I'm looking at them and thinking, you guys are better than that. You are so much more capable than what this proposal is telling me that you are. And I think that part of that is, part of you proposing that to me is that we aren't giving enough feedback to you, right? The gatekeepers are not giving enough feedback out to the population that wants to become a speaker. So, and as I was speaking with various people in the industry, various decision makers, they all had a very similar perspective. They said, we wish that people knew. We wish that people would do. We wish that people would just kind of clean up their act. So that was some of the feedback that I received. So really, that's how this whole seminar was even conceptualized. That's how this began. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. I am one of many steps in the process. And part of the key things that I personally look for when I'm going through any particular proposal is who's making my job harder. This whole seminar is about that. It is about making your presentation, making your proposal a no-brainer for the person that has to go through and score that particular presentation. I don't want to have to go through and dig through all of your website information and your YouTube channels and your this, that, and the third. I need that to be a more obvious fit between what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish. And of course, I'm sure you're all perfectly aware, but I'm just going to say it again. I'm covering NACE-specific info. My experience in this particular topic is based on the NACE Experience Conference, but a lot of this information can be sort of rolled over into other things you're trying to do. But this is going to be, my particular perspective. And, when all else fails and you're kind of stuck in, what kind of message you want to put out there, and you're trying to take what I'm saying and what other people are doing, go out and take a look at what some of the others are doing in the industry. Look at, we just published nominees for Best Speaker in the industry, right? So there is a good, healthy list of fantastic speakers. They get booked all the time, and yeah, they know what they're doing. So I would encourage all of you to take a look at that list, and I can definitely email you that list of people to sort of be on your watch list. Like, watch what they do, watch how they maneuver within that space, because that's going to be really helpful. So aside from, you can take what I'm telling you and, you can absorb some of it and apply some of it or apply none of it. But the reality is, what I'm about to tell you is really based on things that they do. So I would also encourage you to go out and, stalk them a little bit, just follow their social media accounts. Look at what they're doing, because they really know what's up. So I don't want to make you wait any longer for the number one secret, right? Because this is going to be a long presentation, and ultimately, what you're here for is to know that, that top tip. What's that number one thing that, if you remember nothing else about this seminar, nothing else, this is what I want you to remember. This is the slide that I want you to remember. The number one secret is know your goal. And what do I mean by that, right? You have to know where you're going to be able to formulate a plan as to how to get there, because focus equals clarity. And I'm going to say that again, right? Focus equals clarity. That is vital not only to your business, but just anything else that you're going to do, any project that you take on. The more focused you are, the clearer you're clear about the goals, and that is going to really just help you tremendously in terms of how you maneuver within this space. Now, most people, I find, fit into one of 4 categories in terms of why they're out there, even, looking to become a public speaker, right? Because the top 2 fears in this country are going to the dentist and public speaking. So if you want to be a public speaker, you're taking on something that really most people try very hard to avoid. So there's got to be a reason. There's got to be some goal in your head as to why this is the path you want to take in life and in your business. And, one of them, one group of people I find are here because they're looking to position their brand or their company. And that's pretty basic, right? We see those seminars, All Seated. Sandy Hammer, who is the CEO of All Seated, tends to do those seminars. She showcases All Seated as a product. She tells you about event trends and technology. And these seminars are designed to not only showcase your company, but the product itself. Now, maybe you're not about that. Maybe you're trying to develop a personal brand, whatever that is. Maybe, you're trying to develop a lifestyle brand, or, who knows, whatever type of personal branding you're trying to accomplish. Perhaps this is a cog in that particular machine that you're trying to move forward. And some of you might be looking to do this as a career itself. I've got to tell you, it's not a bad choice. If you're looking for multiple streams of income, right? Because we all need multiple streams of income. There are people out there that make a good amount of change just going and booking these particular engagements, because there are plenty of opportunities out there, and some of them pay pretty well. And then the 4th reason that I sometimes find is that some people just, they're at a point in their career where they're like, what else can I do for this industry? What else? I've had great success. I've had, a great knowledge base in my life, and I just really want to share that. I want to share that with the younger generation. I want to mentor. And certainly you don't have to strictly fall into any of these particular categories, but I will tell you that if you primarily focus on one of these 4 things, you're going to experience a much greater level of success, because again, focus equals clarity. So let's just go ahead right into section 1. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead into section 1, the prep work. This is just basic housekeeping, really basic stuff here, and I can't believe I have to really go over it, but I do, quite frankly. So number 1, when you submit, make sure you fill out each submission completely. Now, I'm going to explain that from the NACE perspective, and I'm pretty sure that kind of follows suit for a lot of the other industries and associations and, things that happen out there. In terms of NACE, we give you 3 applications, 3 opportunities to submit a proposal. And you can choose to put those 3 submissions in one of 6 areas, right? You could put it in the catering category, you could put it in the sales category, you could put it in the personal development category. And so there are 6 categories, and you can choose to categorize them as you wish. Just remember that the people that receive these proposals, i.e. me, the gatekeeper, may not get all 3 of your proposals. Why? Because I'm not a caterer. So I may not get the catering proposals, right? And someone else who works in hotels may choose not to score something on event tech, right? So they may not, if you're trying to present something on event tech, they may not see your proposal on event tech, because we all score according to our strengths as well. So it's important to remember that, because I have seen proposals come to me before where it's, it's one person and they've I don't know, somewhere along the line, they got really tired of filling out 3 forms. You know, I swear these are not long forms. It takes you 5 to 10 minutes to do each one, seriously. But, you know, the first one will be filled out completely, and then the second one will say, like, see previous form. No. What did I just say? Please make this easy on me. You know, I have things to do, right? And part of those things are not to go and dig through all the speaker proposals so that I could find your one that you're referencing. Because you might do that another 2 times, and that's really, that's a bad way to begin the conversation, any conversation that you're trying to have. So just fill out each submission completely. Just do it. I guarantee you that the people that you see that get booked for the Experience Conference year after year, when they submit 3, they submit 3 complete proposals. I guarantee you that they do. The second tip that I could tell you about, you know, filling these proposals out is just be clear on your deliverables. Another thing that we're finding is that, you know, people will say, I want to present on a particular topic, but it's so vague, and the deliverables are vague. Like, you know, I want to present on why the color blue is going to be the 2020, why I'm predicting the color blue is going to be the 2020 Pantone color of the year. I don't know. That's, you know, kind of specific, kind of vague. I don't even know what that topic's about. But what's the deliverable? Like, you know, what am I going to get out of that particular seminar that's going to make it worth me coming to that particular presentation? You know, you just have to just be clear on what the goals are of what you're trying to present. And, you know, at a certain point, you're going to be asked to qualify your perspective as to, you know, who you are and why your perspective is relevant within this presentation. Now, this is a very interesting section because sometimes I'll hear people tell me about, you know, how they've been in the industry for 20 years, how they've been award-winning, whatever they are, and how they, you know, they've been adjunct professors at a university. And all of that is great, but then they're going to tell me that they want to present on time management. Well, none of those 3 things have anything to do with time management. They don't. They're all fabulous. They're all really wonderful points, and I certainly believe that you are a professional in your industry. But why is your perspective on time management going to be something I'm going to want to hear about? Like, you know, how have you applied your 20 years of experience, or your winning awards, or your being a professor to, you know, to that particular topic? So just make sure that when you're qualifying yourself, that you're qualifying yourself in a way that makes sense to your topic, right? Like, because what that same person could tell me is, hey, I am all these things and I raised 3 kids, so I know about time management. And you know what I'm going to say at the end of that paragraph? Yep, that person absolutely knows about time management. I get it, because they are not only a busy professional that have experienced a lot of success in their career, but they've got, you know, a full house at home. So I get why that might be something top of mind to them, and why they might have some great tips from me. So again, just, you know, just make sure it makes sense, right? Just, you know, when you look at it, and don't be afraid to ask other people, does this make sense to you? You know, as you're going through. And beware of 3 pitfalls. These are the 3 H's that I like to call humility, hubris, and hyperbole. So humility is really, it's when you're not telling me enough of what I want to hear, right? So it's going back to that scenario where you're presenting on a topic that doesn't necessarily correlate to, you know, to what your professional experience is. You know, you're maybe a little bit too humble. Maybe I need to know a little bit more about what your accomplishments are in this particular area. And hubris, what I don't need is the list of your awards. I don't need the, you know, or if it's not relevant to the particular topic, right? Like if you're presenting on catering trends, I don't need to know about all these awards you've won in event technology. unless you're using event technology to promote catering trends. Like, unless those two things are tied together, I don't need to know that you are the top, bowler in Minneapolis. What does that have to do with anything? Really? Like, it might have something to do with something, but I don't need this sort of puffery that happens, because that leads us to hyperbole, right? It's where it's too much of all the things. I am the greatest. I am the best. I am the most spectacular. All right, listen, we work in an industry where that might work from a marketing perspective, from a PR perspective. You may be able to razzle dazzle all the clients you want to get out there and sprinkle stardust on. But at the end of the day, you are presenting to a group of peers. We know how to look through the fog and see to the core of who you are. So just make sure that when you're presenting your speaker proposal, or that when you're just out there kind of formulating your message, that you're seeking a good balance between telling us just enough but not too much. You want to keep a little mystery, and certainly stay away from the greatest and the best and the superb. That kind of stuff turns me off. It turns some people on. I get it. But from a personal perspective, I tend to find that people who use hyperbole are just not as frequently booked as the people who tend to find the balance between hubris and humility. Because at the end of the day, you have to remember one thing. I don't know you, right? You very well you might be the greatest, the best, the award-winning, the superb, all the things. You might be all the things, but I'm the person that you have to get through. I'm the person who's going to read your proposal, and I may not know any of those things. I may not know who you are. So it's your responsibility, it's your job to tell me who you are in a way that's clear, understandable, and relatable. So do we have any questions at this point in time? Perfect. The second section that we're about to go into, this is really the kind of meat and potatoes, right? So this is like that you've got all your skills, you've done all your prep work, you've assembled all your ingredients, you've gotten that all together, and now you're about to start, right? You're about to start creating that recipe that's going to help you achieve greater success as a speaker in this industry. And the first thing you need to do, as with all great recipes, is do a little research, right? Like, if you're a caterer and you have this fantastic idea for chocolate jalapeno bacon, but you're working in a market where that's going to be just completely frowned upon, maybe that's just not a great idea. Same thing with speaker topics, right? Ask around, see what sticks. Don't be afraid to ask the people within your network, what are the topics that they're looking to, what they're looking for? What are their pain points? What are their happy points? Ask around, and you might be surprised by some of the answers you get. So this is one of those things, the research phase, that sometimes people get a little hung up on. Because ironically enough, that requires them to go out and have real conversations with people, even though they want to become a speaker, and by definition, you will be having a conversation in front of a lot of people. So I don't know why that particular section, I don't know why this particular thing works out the way it does, but there it goes. You have to talk to people, go out and talk to people. Because ultimately, like I said, you need to identify what you care about in this industry, right? If you're looking for a topic and you're kind of stuck and you're like, I don't even know, like, I want to say something, but I don't even know what I want to say. Well, what are you passionate about? What got you up in the morning, made you put on pants and go to work? What drives you nuts about this industry? I'm sure there's plenty of things that drive you nuts, because, it's plenty of things that drive us all nuts about all industries. just start there. Just, take out a pad and paper and start writing these ideas. And then once you start to do that research, you might find that a lot of what you care about and what drives you crazy very match up really well with what other people are telling you about. And you'll start getting those ideas really quickly. It's actually not that difficult to come up with a really good topic once you start doing that, that research. And ultimately, once you've kind of conducted all of that research and you've gotten, sort of these great, 5 or 6 ideas, think about who your target audience is, because that's going to enable you to really hone your message. That's going to be able to, that's when you're going to be able to take that, headline topic and say, okay, am I presenting this to a room of seasoned professionals? Am I presenting this to a room full of new people to this industry? Am I not presenting this to the events industry at all? Maybe I'm presenting something on, greater customer service skills. Well, customer service, that's a broad topic that can be, that's easily transferred to any particular industry out there. So, just think about who it is that you're trying to reach, who your ideal audience is composed of, and that's going to really help you in terms of formulating your ideas. And ultimately, once you've conducted the research, you've identified those points, get out there, start practicing. Really, I mean, that is the key component to, developing these skills. You have to get out there, develop your speaking style, hone your message, see what works. Are you more of a comedian when you're in front of a group of people? Are you someone that likes to just blow through all of that, the topic? Are you that kind of a speaker? Do you like 45 slides? Do you like 15 slides? You just kind of figure out, once you've gotten to that point, figure out what your speaking style is and how you best connect with the people that are sitting in front of you. And really, it sounds difficult, right? All the things that I said, the research, identifying, and going out there and practicing, but it's all low-hanging fruit. This is not a costly thing for you to do, right? This is all free. This is all just going to take your time, which, not necessarily free, but, these are all things that you could do right now, today, tonight, 9 p.m. You could start this at 9 p.m. tonight, and it's all low-hanging fruit. This is all within your grasp. So don't feel intimidated by the process of developing your skills, because this is really, really an important step, and I feel that a lot of people overlook it. Right? They want to go straight from the proposal to presenting in a room full of 500 people. Well, if you haven't done any of the prep work, you're basically presenting, you want to present a chocolate cake, but you've come with a brownie, is what's happening. Just saying. Now, the third section. So again, just pausing for Q&A. In section 3, I want to briefly go over just some of the key points on how to cultivate to generate and what that means, right? So the first thing, you've done all the work. You've done all the prep work. You've cleaned up your act. You've identified the who, what, where, when, why, and hows. You've gotten your skills underway. You've got some really good topics. You're presenting. You're talking to some people. Maybe you are conducting a webinar. Maybe you're doing a Facebook Live session. On a couple of things. These are all really good, viable steps. Moving you towards this end goal. So now you've got to cultivate. You've got to cultivate that audience. And ultimately, you have to cultivate that experience. You're going to start by finding your tribe. And just remember, your presentation will not be for everyone. This goes back to identifying who your target audience is going to be, right? Your presentation may not be a good fit for everyone out there. And it's your job to discover if it's your message that's not reaching the right audience, or if you're not finding the right audience to hear your message. And that's going to be, for some people, it's a really easy lesson to learn. Some people are like, no, this is my audience and I need to adjust my message. And for other people who are really focused on a particular topic or a particular, thread of thought, they're going to say, no, I really need to find my audience. That's a little bit more challenging, but again, totally up to you. But finding your tribe, finding people that want to hear what you have to say, that's going to be key, folks. And in all of this, just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to exist. I don't need a presentation that's perfect. I don't need a resume. I don't think anybody needs a resume that is the perfect situation. I mean, it's great if we have one, right? Something that's like you've presented all across the United States and you're willing to do this for free and you've been presenting for 15 years. That's all well and good, but ultimately, I'm just looking to make sure that you've presented this content in front of somebody, that someone wants to hear what you have to say. It has to exist. I need to be able to go back and say, oh yeah, I'm moving this particular speaker forward because, they presented here, there, and the other place, and, they were really well received and people really enjoyed that topic. And it's tangible. This is a tangible product. And I think that sometimes what ends up happening, especially in this particular industry, is that we get so caught up in selling the concept is that we forget that this is one area where we really need to prove the concept before we sell it, unfortunately. And, that gets a little bit of, gets to be a little bit of a challenge, but, the way you're going to become an in-demand speaker is by proving that there is a demand for you being a speaker. It's kind of, it's a little bit about an irony, but there you have it. Because ultimately, you have to build your experience as a speaker. You have to be able to show up and say, yes, I can present in front of a room of 50 people, 100 people, 500 people, because I've done it before, because I have presented, maybe not this particular topic, but I presented these other topics and they really loved those things. So I think that based on my success here, I can present this particular topic and they're going to also love this. And then again, it becomes a no-brainer for me, because ultimately, the people that select you, the people that book you into any particular event or presentation, right? They are answerable to someone. Even if you're talking about the organizer, even if you're talking about the CEO that has selected you, ultimately they're answerable to their audience, the same people you're answerable to, right? They have to make sure that the person that they have put in front of this room of people knows how to present something, and not just stand there like a brick wall and say, and this is the chart for flip. You can't put someone in a room that may just fall flat, and that is kind of the fear of anyone who's trying to do this, trying to book speakers in a professional capacity. So build your experience. That's going to really just make that an easy yes for anybody that's looking to book you as a speaker. So that concludes the entire presentation, but I'm going to leave you all with a little bit of a nerd break, right? How many of you are familiar with these organizations? Because I know what you're thinking right now. There's a lot of information and you're like, oh, great. Even if I do all these things, then I've got to go, like, where do I even start? Where do I even present my information? Okay. Now, as you all know, each of these organizations have a presence here in the immediate Washington, D.C. area. Now, even if you were only say, out of all these organizations that there might be, 50 opportunities, right? let's take 5 apiece, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, add a couple, more, because, NACE has more meeting opportunities per year, and assessment has less opportunities per year. Let's just give this as an average number of 50 opportunities across just these organizations. That's not including all the conferences and other things that happen within our immediate area. That's 50 opportunities every single year you have to go out and present your topic. You have the opportunity to connect with someone at any of these organizations that can put you in front of a room full of people so that you can test your product, right? And then when you're talking about, then that's just talking about the Washington, D.C. area, right? So now, once you open that a little bit, now most of you have a car, I assume, right? You could probably tolerate anything from an hour and a half to 2.5 hour drives. Once you open that playing field to include Richmond and Philly and Baltimore, you're now talking about a good, 200 opportunities per year for you to go out and present your topics and build that speaker experience. Yeah, there's really, there's just a lot of opportunity out there for you to go out and do your thing. You just have to get to a point where you come prepared to do your thing. So in summary, it's really not that difficult to become an in-demand speaker in the events industry. You just have to take it seriously enough to clean up your act, get those skills together, and cultivate those skills, cultivate those relationships, cultivate that speaker experience through these organizations, so that by the time you're, submitting to CaterSource, or you're submitting to NACE, or, any of these other events, the national events that happen per year, they're going to look at your application and they're going to say, oh yeah, this person really does know what's up. They know what they're doing. And that is how you're going to be in demand. Thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed the presentation today.